वी आर लाइव बनती जी।
ओके। नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। इतिपिसो भगवारहं सम्मा संबुद्धो विद्याचरण संपन्नो सुगतो लोकविदु अनुत्तरो पुरिसदम्म सारथि सत्ता देव मनुष्यानां बुद्धो भगवाति। नमो तस्स सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। ये च बुद्धा अतीता च ये च बुद्धा अनागता पच्चुपन्ना च ये बुद्धा अहं वन्दामि सब्बदा नत्ति मे शरणं अन्यं बुद्धो मे शरणं वरं ये तेन सच्च वज्जेन होतु मे जय मङ्गलम् उत्तमङ्गेन वन्देऽहं पादपंसो वरुत्तमं बुद्धेयो कलितो दोषो बुद्धो कमतु तं मम बुद्धं यावनिब्बानपर्यन्तं शरणं गच्छामि। स्वाख्यातो भगवता धम्मो संदिटिको अकालिको एहि पस्सिको अपनायको पच्छतं वेदितव्यो विन्नुहीति। नमो तस्सनियानि प्रसदम्मसा। ये च धम्मा अतीता च ये च धम्मा अनागता पच्चुपन्ना च ये धम्मा अहं वन्दामि सब्बदा नत्ति मे शरणं अन्यं धम्मो मे शरणं वरं ये तेन सच्च वज्जेन होतु मे जय मङ्गलम् उत्तमङ्गेन वन्देऽहं धम्मं च विदुत्तमं धम्मेयो कलितो दोषो धम्मो कमतु तं मम अधम्मं यावनिब्बानपर्यन्तं शरणं गच्छामि। उपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो उजुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो न्यायपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो सामीचिपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो यदिदं चत्तारि पुरिसयुगानि अट्टपुरिसपुद्गलाये सा भगवतो सावक संगो आहुनेयो पाहुनेयो दक्षिणेयो अंजलिकरणीयो अनुत्तरं पुण्यक्षेतं लोकसाति। नमो तस्स अट्ट आर्य पुद्गला महासंगसा। ये च संगा अतीता च ये च संगा अनागता पच्चुपन्ना च ये संगा अहं वन्दामि सब्बदा नत्ति मे शरणं अन्यं संघो मे शरणं वरं ये तेन सच्च वज्जेन होतु मे जय मङ्गलम् उत्तमङ्गेन वन्देऽहं संगं च विदुत्तमम् संज्ञेयो कलितो दोषो संगो कमतु तं मम संगं यावनिब्बानपर्यन्तं शरणं गच्छामि। विपत्ति पटिवाहाय सब्बसम्पत्ति सिद्धिया सब्बदुःखं विनाशाय सब्बभयं विनाशाय सब्बरोगं विनाशाय भवेदीर्घायुकदायक सब्बलोकं हितत्ताय परित्तं बनामहे समन्ता चक्रवालेषु अत्र गच्छन्तु देवता सद्धम्मं मुनिराजसा सुनन्तु सग्गमोक्तदं धम्मश्रवणकालो अयं वदन्ता धम्मश्रवणकालो अयं वदन्ता परित्तश्रवणकालो अयं वदन्ता। नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्सा। एवं मे सुतं एकं समयं भगवा वाराणस्यं विहरति इसिपटने मिगदाये तत्र को भगवा पंचवग्ये भिक्खु अमन्ते द्वे मे भिक्खवे अन्तापब्बजितेन न सेवितब्बा कथमे द्वे योच्छायं कामेषु कामसु कल्लुकानो योगो हीनो गम्मो कोतुज्जनिको अनरियो अनत्त संहितो योच्छायं अत्त किलमतानुयोगो दुःखो अनरियो अनत्त संहितो येते को भिक्खवे उभो अन्ते अनुपगम्मा मज्जिमा पटिपता तथागतेनाभिसम्बुद्धा चक्षुकरणी ज्ञानकरणी उपशमाया अभिज्ञाया संबोधाया निब्बानाया संबद्धति कथमा च सा भिक्खवे मज्जिमा पटिपता तथागतेनाभिसम्बुद्धा चक्षुकरणी ज्ञानकरणी उपशमाया अभिज्ञाया संबोधाया निब्बानाया संबद्धति अयमे वार्यो अट्टंगिको मग्गो संयतिदं सम्मादिट्ठि सम्मा संकप्पो सम्मा वाचा सम्मा कम्मन्तो सम्मा जीवो सम्मा वायामो सम्मा सति सम्मा समाधि अयं कोसा भिक्खवे मज्जिमा पटिपदा तथागतेनाभिसम्बुद्धा चक्षुकर्णी ज्ञानकर्णी उपशमाय विन्याय संबोधाय निब्बानाय संवर्तति इदं कोपन भिक्खवे दुःखं गर्य सच्चं जातिपि दुःखा जरापि दुःखा व्याधिपि दुःखो मरणंपि दुःखं अप्ये हि संपयोगो दुःखो पिये हि विपयोगो दुःखो यंपिच्छन्ना लभति तंपि दुःखं संकीर्तेन पंचुपादानस्कन्ध दुःखा इदं कोपन भिक्खवे दुःख समुदयं गर्य सच्चं यायं प्रणः पोनोभविका नन्दिराग सहगता तत्र तत्राभिनन्दिनी शय्यतिदं कामतणः भवतणः विभवतणः इदं कोपन भिक्खवे दुःख निरोधं गर्य सच्चं यो तस्सा एव तन्हाया अशेष विराग निरोधो चागो पटि निस्सग्गो मुक्ति अनालयो इदं कोपन भिक्खवे दुःख निरोध गामिनी पटिपदा अरिय सच्चं अयमेव आर्यो अट्टनिको मग्गो संयतिदं सम्मा दिट्टि सम्मा संकप्पो सम्मा वाचा सम्मा सम्मन्तो सम्मा जीवो सम्मा वयामो सम्मा सति सम्मा समाधि इदं दुःखं गर्य सच्चन्ति मे भिक्खवे पुब्बे अनुनुस्सुते सुदम्मेषु चक्कुं उदपादि ज्ञानं उदपादि पन्या उदपादि विद्या उदपादि आलोको उदपादि तक्कोपनिदं दुःखं गर्य सच्चं परिन्नयन्ति मे भिक्खवे पुब्बे अनुनुस्सुतेषु धम्मेषु चक्कुं उदपादि ज्ञानं उदपादि पन्या उदपादि विद्या उदपादि आलोको उदपादि तक्कोपनिदं दुःखं गर्य सच्चं परिन्यातन्ति मे भिक्खवे पुब्बे अनुनुस्सुतेषु धम्मेषु चक्कुं उदपादि ज्ञानं उदपादि पन्या उदपादि विद्या उदपादि आलोको उदपादि इदं दुःख समुदयं गर्य सच्चन्ति मे भिक्खवे पुब्बे ननस्सुतेषु धम्मेषु चक्षुं उदपादि ज्ञानं उदपादि पन्या उदपादि विद्या उदपादि आलोको उदपादि संकोपनिदं दुःख समुदयं गर्य सच्चन् तब्बन्ति मे भिक्खवे पुब्बे अनुनुस्सुतेषु धम्मेषु चक्षुं उदपादि ज्ञानं उदपादि पन्या उदपादि विद्या उदपादि आलोको उदपादि तंकोपनिदं दुःख समुदयं गर्य सच्चं पहीनन्तं मे भिक्खवे पुब्बे अनुनुस्सुतेषु धम्मेषु चक्षुं उदपादि ज्ञानं उदपादि पन्या उदपादि विद्या उदपादि आलोको उदपादि इदं दुःख निरोधं गर्य सच्चन्ति मे भिक्खवे पुब्बे अनुनुस्सुतेषु धम्मेषु चक्षुं उदपादि ज्ञानं उदपादि पन्या उदपादि विद्या उदपादि आलोको उदपादि तंकोपनिदं दुःख निरोधं गर्य सच्चं सच्चिका तब्बन्ति मे भिक्खवे पुब्बे अनुनुस्सुतेषु धम्मेषु चक्षुं उदपादि ज्ञानं उदपादि पन्या उदपादि विद्या उदपादि आलोको उदपादि तंकोपनिदं दुःख निरोधं गर्य सच्चं सच्चिकतन्ति मे भिक्खवे पुब्बे अनुनुस्सुतेषु धम्मेषु चक्षुं उदपादि ज्ञानं उदपादि पन्या उदपादि विद्या उदपादि आलोको उदपादि इदं दुःख निरोधगामिनी पटिपदाय सच्चन्ति मे भिक्खवे पुब्बे अनुनुस्सुतेषु धम्मेषु चक्षुं उदपादि ज्ञानं उदपादि पन्या उदपादि विद्या उदपादि आलोको उदपादि संकोपनिदं दुःख निरोधगामिनी पटिपदा आर्य सच्चं भावे तब्बन्ति मे भिक्खवे पुब्बे अनुनुस्सुतेषु धम्मेषु चक्षुं उदपादि ज्ञानं उदपादि पन्या उदपादि विद्या उदपादि आलोको उदपादि संकोपनिदं दुःख निरोधगामिनी पटिपदा आर्य सच्चं भावितन्ति मे भिक्खवे पुब्बे अनुनुस्सुतेषु धम्मेषु चक्षुं उदपादि ज्ञानं उदपादि पन्या उदपादि विद्या उदपादि आलोको उदपादि यावकी पंच मे भिक्खवे इमेषु चतुषु आर्य सत्येषु एवं विपरिवर्तं वदसाकारं यथा भूतं ज्ञानदर्शनं न सुविशुद्धं अहोसि नेव तावाहं भिक्खवे सदैव के लोके समारके सब्रह्मके सस्रमण ब्राह्मणीयापजाय सदैव मनुष्यायानुत्तरं सम्मा संबोधिं अभिसंबुद्धोति पच्चन्यासिं ततो चको मे भिक्खवे इमेषु चतुषु आर्य सत्येषु एवं परिवर्तं तदसाकारं यथा भूतं ज्ञानदर्शनं सुविशुद्धं अहोसि अताहं भिक्खवे सदैव के लोके समारके सब्रह्मके सस्रमण ब्राह्मणीयापजाय सदैव मनुष्याय अनुत्तरं सम्मा संबोधिं अभिसंबुद्धोति पच्चन्यासिं ज्ञानं मे दर्शनं उदपादि अकुप्पा मे चेतो विमुक्ति अयमन्तिमा जाति नत्थिदानि पुनर्भवोत्ति इदमवोच भगवा आत्मना पंचवज्ञा भिक्षु भगवतो भासितं अभिनन्दन्ति इमस्मिन् च पनवैयाकरणस्मिन् बन्यामाने आयस्मतो कोण्डन्यः साविरजं वीतमलं धम्मचक्रुं उदपादि यंकिंचि समुदय धम्मं सब्बन्तं निरोधं मन्ति पवत्तिते चपन भगवता धम्मचक्के बुम्मा देवा सप्तमनुस्सावेषु एतं भगवता बाणास्यं सपटाने मेघदाये अनुत्तरं धम्मचक्रं पवत्तितं Appadivattiyan samanena va brahmanena va devena va marena va brahmuna va kenachiva lokasminti Ummanan devanan saddam sutva chatu maharajika deva saddamanussa vesun yetan bhagavata varnasiyang isipatane migadaye Anuttarang dhammachakang pavattitang appativattiyang samanena va brahmanena va devena va marena va brahmuna va kenachiva lokasminti Chatu maharajikanan devanan saddam sutva tavatim sadeva saddamanussa vesun Etan bhagavata varnasiyang isipatane migadaye anuttarang dhammachakang pavattitang Appativattiyan samanena va brahmanena va devena va marena va brahmuna va kenachiva lokasminti Tavatimsanan devanan sattam sutva yamadeva saddamanussavesum Etan bhagavata varnasiyang isipatane migadaye Anuttarang dhammachakang pavattitang Appativattiyan samanena va brahmanena va devena va marena va brahmuna va kenachiva lokasminti Yamanang devanang saddam sutva tusata deva saddamanussavesum Etan bhagavata varnasya vispatane migadaye anuttarang dhammachakang pavattitang appativattiyan samanena va brahmanena va devena va marena va brahmuna va de kenachivat lokasminti pustanang devanang saddam sutva nimmanarati deva saddamanussavesum etan bhagavata varnasya vispatane migadaye Anuttarang dhammachakang pavattitang appativattiyan samanena va brahmanena va devena va marena va brahmuna va kenachiva lokasminti nimmanaratinang devanang saddam sutva paranimmita vasvattino deva saddamanussa vesum etan bhagavata varnasyang ichipatane migadaye anuttarang dhammachakang pavattitang appativattiyan samanena va brahmanena va devena va marena va brahmuna va kenachiva lokasminti paranimmita vasvatinang devanang saddam sutva brahmakayika deva saddamanussa Etan bhagavata varnasiyang isipatane mikadaye anuttarang dhammachakang pavattitang appativattiyang samanena va brahmanena va devena va marena va brahmuna va kenachiva lokasminti Iti hatena khanena tena layena tena muhuttena yava brahmaloka saddho abbuggacchi ayancha dasasahassi lokadatu sankampi sampakampi sampavedi Appamano chaularo baso loke paturahosi atikkamma devanang devanubhavang atako bhagava imang udanang udanesi anyasi vatabo pandanyoti iti hidang gayasmato pandanyasya anya pandanyotvev namang apositi yetena saccavajjena no hotu sabbada yetena saccavajjena no jaya mangalam yetena saccavajjena patno ratanattayam Tityo vibhajjantu sabbarogo vinasatu mate bhavatantarayo sukhi dīgāyuko bhava bhavatu sabba mangalang rakkantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sabba dhammanubhavena sabba sanghanubhavena saraswati bhavante Ibina punya kampena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu Yavan patya idang me punya kamang asavattayang vahang hotu sabbadukka pamucchatu vana sampachayo hotu sadhu sadhu sadhu. Okay, so you might have observed in today's chanting Dhamma Chakka Pavattan, something like that. Pavattana means like rotating, turning. Dhamma Chakka means the Dhamma wheel. Dhamma wheel rotation, something like that. You might have heard Dhamma Chakka Pavattan, Dhamma Chakka Pavattan. Something like that you might have heard in this today's chanting. That word. So why this discourse? What is the meaning of that word Dhamma wheel and rotating the Dhamma wheel? And what is the significance of this? And why it is significant during this time? It's coming full moon day, that's on Wednesday. All over the world, people celebrate that full moon day, this July full moon day, Ashada full moon day, as Dhamma Chakka Pavattana day, turning the wheel of Dhamma that started from this month of July full moon day. And from that day, the spread of Dharma started. The spread of the righteousness started from that day. That's why it's remembered as Dhamma Chakka Pavatana Day. The arising or the realizing of Dhamma, it happened in May full moon day. Buddha realized that Dhamma, the ultimate reality, the ultimate righteousness, the ultimate wisdom, the ultimate freedom, he could realize, he could experience, he could discover, he could see that supreme enlightenment. During May full moon day and during July full moon day, he could start, spreading, like propagating, like promoting this Dhamma. And that spread of Dhamma, it started from this day, from this July full moon. And whereas the arising of Dhamma, it started in May full moon day itself. So it took nearly 2 months for Buddha to get the right audience and to teach this, to announce this, to promote this, and thereby start helping others. So it's not only simply spreading, simply teaching. So after teaching, the people could grasp it, assimilate it, absorb it, realize it, and they could liberate their minds. That kind of impact on the world, it started from this day, from this Dhamma Chakka Pavatana Day, and it's also called Dhamma Day. So in that way, this is significant when it comes to the promotion, the real expansion or real impact of Dhamma on the people. It started working from this day, from this Dhamma Day, or from Dhamma Chakka Pavatana. It happened in Sarnath. It is very close to Varanasi. And Buddha traveled from Bodh Gaya after the enlightenment, supreme enlightenment. So he got that Bodhi, that supreme enlightenment, Samma Sambodhi, the absolute supreme enlightenment, sitting under that Bodhi tree. Still you can see in Bodh Gaya, the tree. Under that tree he was enlightened. And of course, he spent nearly 49 days there itself, enjoying that supreme bliss of enlightenment. And then, and of course, so many other things, other great things also happened during those 49 days, 7 weeks. And after that, he started traveling. And he thought of, now he got that supreme enlightenment, and it should be taught so that other people also will be benefited. Initially, he thought, this is so sublime, this is so deep and profound and sublime. People are not matured enough, they are not capable enough, and they are not at all inclined enough to understand this, to realize this. Not possible for this human world, the beings in this human world. It may be very difficult for them. So let me mind my own business. Let me just go to Himalayas and enjoy my supreme enlightenment. That way he thought. But later he realized, and he was actually requested by one Brahma, one of the Brahmas. And he requested Buddha, no, maybe majority of the humans may not be in a position to understand Dhamma, but at least a few of them, they may show interest and they may learn Dhamma from you, and better to teach them. In that way, he requested Buddha Buddha obliged his request, and he decided to teach. And there are two more significant things in that request. One is like this Brahma. He was the most powerful, deity. Was respected by the most of the Indians during that time. But of course, now also Brahma. Many people they were thinking that he was the creator, and they had a lot of respect in Brahma. And even the yogis who realized Brahma, they could imbibe, the spirit of say universality of Brahma, and they used to respect Brahma so much. And whatever he says, they definitely used to obey. And of course, most of the people during that time in India, somehow directly and indirectly, they were connected to Brahma, and thereby the words of Brahma, the request of Brahma, would definitely have an impact on the other people who are going to listen to Buddha. Brahma himself has requested Buddha to teach these things, means there should be something in what this Buddha is teaching. In that way, they can open their mind, they can be more receptive, and they can start learning the things from Buddha. That is one powerful impact from that conversation between Brahma and Buddha. And the second impact is, the Buddhas, there should be some receptivity when only Buddhas teach. There should be some request. When there is request, then there will be receptivity. When there is request and receptivity, then the flow will automatically happen. For anything to flow, there should be gradient. If people are blunt, the people are adamant, the people are resisting, if the people are rigid and careless, then teaching any great thing or whatever ordinary things also, it will be of no use. There should be some interest. There should be some eagerness to learn. Then only the teaching will be effective. So that kind of gradient always the right teachers they create. Of course, that you can see in case of Buddha in all his discourses, in all the teachings, in all the circumstances where he could deliver beautiful sermons, beautiful discourses. So he could prepare the audience in some skillful means so that they will be ready to listen. They will be receptive to grasp or absorb what Buddha teaches. Or Buddha used to find out the suitable person who is ready to listen, ready to grasp, ready to absorb, ready to learn. So he used to search from his supernormal powers, from his Mahakaruna, from his great compassion, he used to find out during early morning hours. And accordingly, he used to search, he used to walk to them, or sometimes he used to reach them even by supernormal powers, by flying and all. And then, because of the gradient, he used to teach them and he used to liberate them. So, here those two purposes were served. One is this Brahma himself requested, and the second thing is because many people, or almost all Indians, somehow they were under the influence of Brahma, directly or indirectly. When Brahma himself is showing that receptivity, automatically all other people, the followers of Brahma, they also started showing receptivity. They will also show the receptivity for the teachings of Buddha. So, because of these two reasons, Buddha decided to teach whatever he discovered, whatever he realized under the Bodhi tree. So, after these 49 days, he started traveling from Bodh Gaya to Sarnath, Varanasi. On the way, he could meet a few people. He tried to create that kind of receptivity, but some of them were very blunt. Either they were blunt or they were, arrogant. because of their arrogance or because of their bluntness, dullness, they could not learn from Buddha. There was one person by name, I think, Drona, and there was one more person. Though they appreciated Buddha, his appearance, his charm, his confidence, everything they could appreciate, but they were not in a position to listen to Buddha because of maybe the bluntness, the wrong views, complete rigidness in their own wrong views. So they could not open up themselves and they could not learn from Buddha. So Buddha, of course, he knew it, and his goal was different. He wanted to meet his 5 disciples who are so loyal to Buddha, and who are capable also to learn from Buddha. So he was in search of them. So he came to Sarnath in search of them, and he knew that they were there, and he wanted to teach them. But on the way, though he met a few people, so he could not teach them and he could not transform them. So this is the point that you should know, or for that matter, everybody should know. So even Supreme Buddhas, they can't convert everyone. That is point number one. Point number two, even the Supreme Buddhas also, they try to create that kind of gradient. Without creating gradient, they don't venture to teach any damn person. They try to create that gradient and then see that the person is in the receptive end. And after that, they teach these great truths or the sublime Dhamma, sublime realities of freedom and wisdom, the sublime realities of happiness and suffering. So in that way, this Dhamma that he could realize, to turn it, to bring it to the world, to rotate it. So it took nearly 2 months for Buddha. For the Supremely Enlightened Buddha also it took 2 months. First he thought about his teachers, who are very great teachers, who are very, very mature teachers. One of the teachers, he taught Buddha a lot of deep absorptions, lot of samadhi, lot of great meditations, subjective meditations. Alara Kalama, and the other teacher, Uddakrama Putta, he taught him the 8th deep absorption also. He wanted to teach them because they're almost near to Nibbana. It's a small teaching, their minds can be transferred and they can reach the ultimate truth, ultimate reality, Nibbana. That way he thought of teaching them, but by the time they were no more. They left this world, means like they died and they reached those sublime worlds where it is very difficult to teach, because in those sublime worlds they will not be having the ear sense, they will not be having the eye sense, and to teach such beings who are lacking that ear sense and all, it's not at all possible. So he just left that idea. Buddha left that idea, and then he thought these 5 disciples who used to serve Buddha when he was struggling to get this enlightenment before he reached Bodhgaya. So those loyal, very humble disciples, then they are ready now. So I can teach them in that way, he thought. And he started traveling to Sarnath. And before, he met these 5 disciples and started teaching this first discourse, Dhamma Chakrapavartana Sutta. So let us see what is this Dhamma wheel. Why it is called Dhamma wheel? It's like our today's topic. What is Dhamma wheel? When and how it rotates. So the title of this today's Dhamma talk. First we will see this and then we will take up this Dhamma Chakrapavartana Sutta, the discourse on the turning of this Dhamma wheel. So what is the wheel? Wheel means chakra. Chakra. Like so what is the speciality of chakra? It can keep rolling. It You just push it. It keeps on moving. There are no hurdles. There are no obstacles. The movement is endless. It can keep moving, moving, moving. And if there is some gentle slope also, it can move, uh, say, without uh, any problem. It's the unending movement can happen with this chakra. That is the beauty of this special discovery of the human beings. Like chakra can keep on rolling. Once it is pushed, it can go seamlessly. It can go without any stop. Unlike any other thing, like you are say one cube or cuboid, you just push, it can go little and then it will stop. Is it not? But whereas a wheel, it can go seamlessly. It can go without any problem. Once it is pushed, if there is gentle slope and if there are no hurdles. So that is actually the symbolism that we are talking about here. Wheel is a symbol of seamless movement, unending movement. So this kind of unending or very powerful movement, the movement that which has started will go on or has gone for so many years, for thousands of years. That kind of seamless movement, to represent it, this symbolism we often use. The symbolism of wheel we use. We use something like Chakravarti, a wheel turning monarch. A wheel turning monarch is called a Chakravarti Maharaja or Chakravarti. What is Chakravarti? Again, Chakra means wheel. Varti means turner or the person who turns it. A wheel turning monarch, a superior king or a far powerful king. So his actions, his deeds, his policies, his vision, it has such a tremendous impact on the society that its repercussions, its impact will remain in the society for thousands of years, or at least hundreds of years. Such a monarch is called a wheel turning monarch or a Chakravarti Maharaja. Buddha, in several of his previous lives, he took birth as Chakravarti Maharajas. In so many of his previous lives, he was a wheel turning monarch because his powerful reforms, his powerful policies, actions, it left a big impact, a huge imprint on the lives of the people, and it remained forever, for so many years. That kind of powerful impact which was left on the society for so many years. So to represent it, we use this symbolism, this wheel turning the wheel or rotating the wheel, whether it is political or spiritual. So Dhamma wheel is all about the spiritual impact. The spiritual impact that was left by this Gautama Buddha, who discovered the Dhamma, the absolute righteousness, absolute right view, and the right view or the righteousness-based knowledge, the different actions, the different speech, the different techniques, the different meditations, the different skillful means that liberate people authoritatively. There are so many hundreds of techniques, thousands of techniques, which were so authoritative, right to techniques. By practicing, many people could liberate themselves, but also they could teach others and liberate others. So that kind of chain reaction, it was there for thousands, at least they say 500 years. The pristine pure Dhamma was there even after Buddha, even after Gautama Buddha, for some 500 years, the absolute Dhamma. And of course, with some corruption, it remained for so many thousands of years also. Even now, it is still there. This Dhamma is still there. It may not be in its pristine pure form, but still many people are working to realize or to find out the pristine pure forms of this Dhamma. But still, some versions of Dhamma are still remaining. But after some time, it may completely vanish. Even that word Dhamma itself may vanish. Even the word Buddha itself may vanish. So until then, let us say for some 3000, the word Buddha, the word Dhamma, the different techniques, the mind liberating, the mind purifying techniques are still there, means it is a tremendous impact on the world. And that's why to represent, to symbolize so this kind of tremendous impact on the world, we use this word wheel. So the rotation, the turning of the wheel was unhindered. It was not stopped for thousands of years. Then such a movement, such a reformation, such an impact is called the wheel. It is symbolized as wheel. And such a person who turned that kind of tremendous, impactful wheel or impactful policies, impactful knowledge. So he is called a wheel turning person, a wheel turning monarch, or a wheel turning spiritual person like Gautama Buddha. And if it is the righteousness, right view, like all Buddhas, they discovered that absolute right view, absolute righteousness, and they turn that wheel of righteousness and right view. And that kind of wheel, which will have tremendous impact, long-term impact on the world and the society. So that kind of impact, symbolically, it can be told, or it can be addressed as Dhamma wheel. We are in this Dhamma wheel period of Gautama Buddha, who discovered and who turned this Dhamma wheel, who turned this wheel of Dhamma, the righteousness, the different techniques, the different meditation, different approaches, and the impact of which is still seen. Still thousands of people are practicing, or millions of people are practicing. So that kind of symbolism is called Dhamma wheel. Coming to so when and how it rotates. Of course, this political Dhamma wheel by these Chakravartis, it may happen anytime, any powerful king, like even you can say that kings like Ashoka and all, they were all like a great, say, Chakravartis. They could turn the wheel of their own policies, and the impact of which remained for thousands of years, like the policies of non-violence by Ashoka. Now it is seen in the Indian polity, or maybe in the world polity. So in that way, these political, the policies which are having tremendous impact on the society and the world, was created, which was started by the great rulers, the great Chakravartis like Ashoka. It may happen at any time, at any part of the human history. Whereas this Dhamma will happen very rarely. Occasionally it happens because of two reasons. One is the Bodhisattvas were working on their own mind and completely purifying their mind, perfecting their mind by fulfilling the perfections, the paramis. That takes a lot of time. Purifying the mind is not an easy thing. It's not a joke. It is the most complicated thing, and of course it is most obvious thing. So it takes a lot of time. And these bodhisattvas, many people, though they wish to become bodhisattvas, but to work on it and to purify the mind, it requires tremendous patience, tremendous persistence, perseverance, tremendous maturity, wisdom, and to end up in becoming such bodhisattvas, to become Buddhas, it takes billions of years, billions of kalpas, eons. Eon is the time for the earth to evolve and devolve, completely destroy. and again the new earth evolves, and that one cycle of earth's evolution and dissolution. So that period is called one eon, and it takes so many eons, sometimes maybe more than a few eons, or sometimes in the same eon, a few Buddhas, only a few, one or two or three Buddhas may arise. So that one eon is billions of years. So this present eon, they say 5 Buddhas will arise. Already 4 Buddhas have arisen. This is very special eon. This is called Baddha Kalpa. Very special. So in this eon, in this present earth cycle, so there is one more Buddha, also the Maitreya Buddha also will arise. So in that way, so it takes millions, billions of years for the Buddhas to arise. And once they arise by perfecting their mind, once they realize the Dhamma in their mind first, and then because of their high level fulfillment of the parmis, the perfections, they will get the ability to teach also. And with that ability to teach, that ability to thoroughly penetrate into the ultimate realities and discovering the absolute true Dharma. So they could start teaching, and from that time onwards, from then on, the wheel turning starts. The Dhamma wheel turning starts. The righteousness, the wheel of righteousness starts turning. So this happened almost some 2,550 or 2,600 years back in India, northern India. Because of this great Buddha, or Gautama Buddha, he discovered it first and a Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya. And then after 2 months, then after the request of Brahma, and of course that was the very purpose of his, not only one life, so many lives. He wanted to become the Supreme Buddha, supremely enlightened Buddha, so that could help others also to get liberated, become enlightened. So because of that highest aspiration, because of that highest, not only aspiration, highest exertion, highest say action, selfless action that he could do for so many lives, so he could start teaching that from the very day of his first teaching. Then this Dhamma wheel has started rotating. So in that way, Dhamma wheel rotation or its turning starts from the arising of the Supreme Buddhas. And arising of Supreme Buddhas, it is very rare phenomena. It happens very rarely in this human world. Once the Buddhas, Supreme Buddhas arise, then the Dhamma rotation, the Dhamma wheel rotation also starts. So how it starts, how it rotates means like teaching only. Buddha started teaching these first 5 people, and these 5 people, they start teaching again. Some of them, of course, not all the 5 people. The first one, he could not teach, and the other 4, they started teaching, and again Buddha also started teaching. And in that way, like a chain reaction, the spread started. And in that way, Dhamma wheel rotation, it started penetrating into all fields, all faculties, all stratas of the society. And each and every one, almost each and every one could get the Dhamma or this righteousness in the world. And in that way, this spread of Dhamma, the rotation of Dhamma happens. And that is the how aspect of Dhamma wheel rotation. So that is about the explanation of today's title. And now coming to this actual this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, what exactly is taught in this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, or in this discourse of the rotation of or the turning the wheel of Dhamma. What is taught in this sutta? Of course, this is quite a long sutra, and actually, I want to give uh, my best to this sutra, so we can uh, have the discussion next week also. Because this full moon day is Wednesday, so next Sunday also I think we can have some discussion on this Dhamma Chakravartin Sutta, because this is very, very, very important. The very first sutta itself gives the gist of the gist of all the teachings of Buddha. So if a person can completely penetrate into this very first sutta itself, then he could comprehend all the suttas of Buddha very, very easily. Very easily, then he can comprehend right view in a very, very powerful way. So I want to emphasize and I want to teach little elaborately this first discourse, this Dhamma Chakravartin. So that is the first discourse given by Buddha. The Dhamma wheel turning discourse, the turning of the Dhamma wheel discourse. So, so Buddha, when he approached these 5 disciples, they were not very happy with Buddha, because they thought that Buddha fell into the indulgence, like he started enjoying the food, and that in those days people, they were thinking that only torturing the body is the means, is the way to liberate the mind, is the way to purify the mind. Or some people used to say purify the soul. If you indulge in the bodily pleasures, even eating is also, though it's a necessity, though those times the meditators, the people who used to become spiritually liberated, people who are aspiring to spiritual liberation, they were thinking that even eating is a hindrance to liberation. That was the notion in those days. When Buddha started eating, though he could practice without eating so many days, so many even weeks or maybe months, he realized that it will not help. The extreme approaches will not help. That he could realize. That was a great realization. During those days, that kind of moderate approach, middle path approach, nobody used to practice. That is the beautiful realization of Buddha, beautiful teaching of Buddha. That's what he teaches in this Dhamma Chakravartin Sutta to these 5 disciples, who are also thinking that extreme practice of torturing the body is the means to liberate the mind, liberate the soul. That's what was their thinking. And Buddha could break that very strongly, very rigidly, absorbed by so many meditators. That wrong view was absorbed by so many meditators. And this was a new discovery. Buddha's moderation approach or the middle path approach was a new discovery. Buddha could realize it when he heard the sound of a lute, a string instrument. The string instrument, if the string is too tight, so it could not give proper sound. Or if it is too loose also, then you won't get the proper sound. If it is moderately tight, then only it can produce the right sound. So that Buddha could realize. So too much torturing the body or too much indulging in the bodily pleasures, they are not the right approaches to work on the mind. To work on the mind, there should be moderation. There should be some comfort and stability in the body. And that kind of comfort and the stability in the body is the prerequisite to work on the mind. Simply torturing the body will simply trouble the mind also. We can't work on the mind. Simply indulging in the sensual things will make the mind to become so fickle, so wobbly. So then stilling the mind or working on the mind is not possible. That's what Buddha could realize. So that aspect, that beautiful realization, that middle path approach, that only Buddha started teaching to these 5 disciples. because during those days, nobody could say understand, nobody realized, nobody discovered middle path approach. All those spiritual practitioners, they were into these extremes of, they have fallen into these extremes of body centeredness, simply indulging in the bodily things, and that itself they think it as say the congenial factor. Some of the Brahminical traditions during those days, or some of the say materialistic say, beliefs or materialistic spiritual practices. They were interested in only the satisfying body is satisfying everything. The body is thoroughly say the, enjoying the things, then that is the means to liberate, and that is the means to get moksha. That way also there were some theories, there were some schools of thought, the body-centered thoughts, like the present day, the materialism. People are behind these worldly or bodily pleasures, thinking that that is the only pleasure that they know, and that is the only pleasure that they have decided. So that is one body-centered approach to derive pleasure and happiness. And there is one theistic approach, or say soul-centered approach. Simply torture the body, ignore the body as much as possible, try to purify the soul only, and that is the means to get the true happiness, true peace, true wisdom. That is one group of practitioners who are practicing that. And nobody could discover this mind-centered or this middle path or this moderation approach. That is the beauty of Buddha's this first discourse itself, where his disciples, these 5 disciples also, they were into these extreme views. To teach them to come out of the extreme views and to start to this mind-centered view or this right view of mind-centeredness, Buddha started this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta with this middle path approach only, this moderation approach only, this mind-centered approach only. Don't completely torture the body, completely indulge in the bodily pleasures. At the same time, don't completely dependent on the so-called soul and next birth and supreme soul and all those say imaginary things. There is no need to completely dependent upon. There is no need to completely dependent upon this ephemeral, this temporary, this ever-changing bodily pleasures, bodily requirements, bodily enjoyments. Depending on them is not the right way to get the true happiness or to get the freedom or wisdom. So that Buddha could realize, and that Buddha could teach in the very first discourse itself, this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. So, and that very first few verses, they were so inspiring for these 5 disciples. And then, after inspiring them with this middle path approach, then Buddha could teach them the 4 noble truths. Very in detail, each noble truth at 3 levels. First noble truth at 3 levels, the second noble truth at 3 levels, the third noble truth at 3 levels. How one can penetrate into these 4 noble truths, and how one can comprehend the middle path approach. So this is good enough to liberate a person. So, and that's what happened during that occasion also. Only that much was good enough. At least one person among the 5 could see the glimpse of Nibbana, the glimpse of supreme absolute enlightenment, absolute liberation. The senior most among those 5 disciples, Pandanya, he could see the glimpse of liberation, glimpse of absolute enlightenment after listening to this Dhammacakkappavattana. And thereby, other than Buddha, one more person in the world could see the Nibbana. And that's how the Dhamma wheel, the wheel of truth, the wheel of righteousness, the wheel of liberating truth, it started working in the world. Not only in case of Buddha, it started rolling and it started having an impact on the other people also. Because one more person other than Buddha also got this knowledge of Chakku Karani, Jnana Karani. He got the eye of Dhamma, he got the wisdom of the knowledge of Dhamma. And of course, here they say, he is the next human being, but many divine beings, they got this Chakku, this eye, this Dhamma eye they got, this knowledge eye they got, this light they got, light of wisdom they got, light of freedom they got, many divine beings, and 18 crore Brahma beings, Brahmas, superior divine beings, they also got liberated by listening to this Dhamma Chakravartana Sutta. That's what was mentioned in this Dhamma Chakravartana Sutta. And in detail, we will see next week. And this is a fascinating and very inspiring sutta. Definitely, it inspires everyone. When Buddha taught this, the whole world system, 10,000 world systems, they should. That's what they say. That is the power of this discourse. And the divine beings were listening to this. They were so much overwhelmed by this, and their overwhelmed joy, it could spread to higher levels, higher divine levels, and it could shake the higher divine realms also. And up to the Brahma realms, this shaking, this inducement of this powerful wisdom, it happened. So in that way, the most beautiful Dhamma discourse. So next week we will see. So the first part of it is, as I told you, it's about the middle path. So what Buddha says, so Buddha, he invited the Panchavagya bhikkhus and they started listening to Buddha. Dveme bhikkhave anta pabbajitena na sevitabha katamir. Two things one should not practice. What are the two things? Two extreme things one should not practice. What are those two extreme things? Tamesu kama sukallikani yogo hino gammo potujjaniko anariyo. Simply involving in these essential things, bodily pleasures. It is so cheap. Once you realize the pleasures of the mind, the pleasures of the purity of the mind, pleasures of the developed mind, when you start realizing this, then all these bodily or the sensual desires or the sensual happiness that you derive by indulging in the sensual pleasures, indulging the sensual senses, the physical senses, with these physical sense objects, like the eyes indulging in the visible objects, ears indulging in the sound objects, and the taste sense indulging in the taste. These are very, very menial, very, very cheap when you involve in these pleasures or the happiness of the matured mind or the stable mind or the equanimous mind or the still mind or the sensitive mind or the pure mind. Pleasures that you derive from a matured or developed mind are far, far superior. You should not get carried away with these so-called bodily pleasures or these sense pleasures. They are so cheap. They are so trapping. They are so say addictive. It will make you actually like animals. More addictive you become to these sensual things, then you become more like animals. So we are more stuck there only. You can't go beyond that and you can't work on the mind. So avoid this extreme dependence on the sensual pleasures, bodily pleasures, because they are so inferior. Dhamma, it is so like a unurbane, or it is so say uncivilized, unurbane. Potu Janko, it is so like that is the worldly affair. You are the meditators, you are the spiritual seekers. All these worldly people, worldly folk, common folk, they are indulged in the worldly things. So you meditators or the spiritual seekers, you should transcend, you should go beyond that. Anaryo, it is not noble, it is ignoble. It is ignoble or ignoble. It's not noble. So indulging in the sensual things is not noble. It is ignoble. Anatta Samhita, it is simply torturing your mind, torturing your core. It is not true to your core, true to your nature, true to the nature of a spiritual seeker. Spiritual seeker should always derive happiness through his through purification. Or worldly people, worldly common folk are below that. Animals, they only should indulge in the essential things and they should think that only is the ultimate pleasure for them. But for a sensitive person or a person who is interested in, say, getting the sublime happiness or eternal happiness or more uh, subtle happiness, for such a person, these bodily pleasures are dangerous and they are inferior, they're ignoble. So you avoid that extreme of simply indulging, simply being carried away in the bodily or in the physical senses or the physical pleasures, thinking that only as the ultimate. That's what majority of the people in this world have. All kinds of materials, whether it is capitalistic materialists or communist materialists, all those who are behind this so-called development and simply accumulate everything and get pleasure, physical pleasures. All these capitalists also, that is their slogan. For the communists also, that is the slogan. That is so ignoble. That is the way of the common folk, simply indulging in all this worldly nonsense, thinking it as the ultimate. Whatever you require, whatever you want, you just enjoy it and just see that your body gets the comfort. The body should be comfortable and stable. For that sake, whatever you want to get it from the world, from this worldly, the so-called worldly development, it's okay, it's well and good. But that is not the idea. The very notion, the very intention is to everything is in exploiting the nature, everything is in the materialism only, in this objective world only, in this materialistic, not objective, in this materialistic world only, and all pleasure is there. With that kind of intentions, people are greedily, foolishly go behind this materialistic pleasures, and that is not the true pleasure, and one should avoid it. Well, that is an extreme. That's what is the meaning of this first gatha. And again, Buddha says, what is the other extreme? Yo chayam atta kilamatanu yogo, dukko anaryo anatta samhito. And the other extreme is thinking that there is something called soul inside, deep inside this body. By simply torturing this body, that soul will come out, or it will get freedom, it will get liberation. If more you torture this body, then there is a higher possibility for the soul to come out, soul to become free. That was the notion of the other extreme group of people in those times, and of course even today also in many spiritual practices. Those people, they simply torture the body, thinking that the soul will get liberation. Some extreme practices for the body, not giving proper food to the body, not giving proper, say, care, the minimum care, at least minimum care, proper food, proper clothes, proper shelter, proper medicine when it is sick. If you don't give those things also, then the body is like a container for the mind. If the container is damaged, then the contents in the container, they will stay simply, they will be leaked out of that container, or you can't handle that contents. So because of that reason, the container should be good, sufficiently good enough you want to handle the contents of the container. So in that way, if you want to handle the mind, the body, if is supporting the mind, it should be properly taken care of. Simply torture it blindly, ignorantly, uh, foolishly, then it will have the reverse impact. Your mind also will be disturbed. Your mind will become too. Once you torture the body, you torture the mind also. They're highly interrelated. When there is comfort and stability in the body, then there is a greater chances of getting, and its impact will be there on the mind also. Mind also will become relatively stable, relatively comfortable. Then working on the mind becomes more easy. So that's why simply torturing the body with the wrong intentions or with wrong ideas of, say, I can liberate the soul by torturing the body. That is another extreme practice. You should avoid these two extreme practices. Like your soul-centeredness or the body-centeredness. So if you want, you should work on the mind. The mind-centered approach is the middle path approach to achieve that mind-centeredness, to achieve that development of the mind. Then you should have, you should neither indulge so much in the bodily things, bodily pleasures, nor you should torture your body, thinking that the soul will be liberated. The very concept of soul, one should not bring in, or simply being materialistic and simply body-centered. This is also an extreme view. So work on this mind, work on this the moderation of the body. Then automatically you will understand the soul also. You understand the mind. You can understand how the repeated lives will happen, repeated births will happen in the future life. When this question of future life comes, then only people will be carried away with this idea of soul. There is no need for this idea of soul for the rebirth to happen. That's what Buddha says. Like stream of consciousness that flows, that gets pushed from one life to another life. Mind only. So that we will see later. So here the point is start working on the mind. All the intricacies about this matter, about this world, about this existence, you will come to know. And if you start working on the mind authoritatively, you will start understanding about the next life, future life, rebirth. These intricacies also you will start understanding. That's why the emphasis is on the mind, not simply dependent on the matter, or body, and the matter, or the universe. That itself is the reality. That itself is the truth. That itself is the great say discoveries. That's what many people in the world now, the scientists, the name of truth, in the name of, they are simply carried away in this materialistic world, thinking that discovering something about some star or some galaxy or some atom or some rocket science, that itself is the biggest truth. That itself will give immense pleasure and happiness to the world. That's what the science is. Approach. The present day people are following. And the spiritualists or the religions or the theistic people, they are very much bothered about the next life, life after death, whether they get heavens and the damsels and angels and all this nonsense about after the life. And many religions are bothered. And the people are simply distributed either in this theistic approaches or in this materialistic approaches. And very few people are interested in developing the mind and thereby realizing the absolute truth, the absolute freedom, the absolute wisdom, the absolute happiness, the authoritative absolute happiness. So that kind of right view you can see in the very first few gathas, few verses of this very first discourse given by Buddha, Dhamma Chakra, Sutta. Okay. So in that way, Buddha started his Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. With this, uh, in this Sarnath, when he started teaching these to his 5 disciples. Ete ko bhikkave ubo ante anupagamma majjima patipada tathagatena abhisambuddha chakkukarani jnanakarani upasamaya abhinyaya sambodhaya nibbānaya sampatti. Yes, this middle path, majjima patipada, this middle path only will take you to that ultimate realization of abhisambuddha tathagatena. That's what this tathagata, that means the Samma Sambuddha, that Gautama Buddha, he has realized it in this middle path. What he realized, Abhisambuddha, with this middle path approach only, he could realize the best things, the ultimate realities, the ultimate freedom, the ultimate wisdom, Abhinyaya, all the supreme knowledges he could realize, all the Upasama, all the peace, ultimate peace he could realize, all Sambodhaya, all the ultimate bodhi, ultimate wisdom he could realize, Nibbānaya, all liberation, the ultimate liberation is realized, and that is the one that will take you to this kind of ultimate sambodhi, ultimate knowledge, ultimate liberation, ultimate knowledges. Abhinaya means supreme knowledges, ultimate peace, samaya means peace. So to reach all these ultimates, this is the path. Majjima Patipada, the middle path is the path. Okay, Buddha authoritatively he could declare. Yeah. Then, what is this middle path? What are the different limbs or the factors of this middle path? So, by practicing these different factors of middle path, how one can be liberated, those things we will see next week. That's what Buddha explains after this. So then he says, Katamacha sabhikave majjima pati. What is this middle path? So in that way he started explaining about this middle path, and there are 8 factors in this middle path. And what are these 8 factors? And the explanation of these 8 factors, he started explaining. That we will see next week. So in that way, Dhamma starts. Dhamma rotation starts from this middle path. So if you understand this mind-centeredness, to understand the need to work on the mind, not solely depending on, not heavily depending on only body or only the next life. This too much dependence on these 2 things are there. People fall into the extreme, like all these extremism starts. If you fall into these extreme views, extremism because of that blindness, that too much blind faith when it starts in your mind, then you don't mind killing, you don't mind doing any damn thing because of those wrong views. They are called extremists, is it not? There are materialistic extremists, there are spiritual or religious extremists because of the extreme views only. So one should come out of these extreme views, come to the middle path view or the moderation view or the mind-centered view, and work on the mind. That's the authoritative path. That is the only path for that matter to get the true peace, true happiness, the true liberation, Sambodhi, Nibbāna, Abhinya, Upasama, the true peace, the true happiness, the true enlightenment, true liberation. Everything is rooted in understanding and prodding this middle path or the mind-centered path. That's what is the beginning of this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. I think this much is enough for today. Next week we will see these 8 factors, how Buddha explains these 8 factors, and how in depth he explains these 4 noble truths also. That we will see next week. Now we will see the questions. Please explain, Banteji, the difference between soul and mind. Actually, soul is one imaginary concept that is designed by the theists Peace means like the God-centered, the believers in the creator God. When you see this vast universe, when you see a lot of intricacies, the physical laws, the chemical laws, so many laws that are governing this so huge universe, and many people get say some kind of mesmerized, some kind of inspiring for some people, for some people little terrifying also, little scary also. When they see some uncontrolled great forces like this, thunders, storms, earthquakes, and all, then they started thinking there should be some great force which is behind all these things, is regulating all these things. And and again, to get some kind of solace, they could relate themselves with that great force, that they call that great force as the God or the supreme soul, and themselves as the individual souls, so that they can relate themselves with the supreme soul. In that way, these concepts of soul and supreme souls have come to this world, have come to this human mind, mostly out of fear, and mostly to get some solace. Because for the normal people, this kind of stories they're very appealing. You see, for small children, for 5 years children, 10 years children, if you say, uh, if he is timid, then he will take the help of his father. I will tell my father. So he thinks that his father is all powerful. If he thinks that there is father next to him, then he can protect him, and he is the son, he is the part of his father, and his father will protect him. But faith will give a lot of protection, a lot of courage, a lot of confidence. In the same way, all these theistic religions, they started giving that solace to a lot of fears, a lot of confusions, a lot of worries of the people about the universe, about the future, about the past, about all kinds of not knowing, about all kinds of not knowing. They could bring in the idea of God. He is like our father. He can protect us. He can save us. He is our savior. He is our protector. So if we simply depend on him, he will take care of us. If we simply trust him. Absolutely, like for small kids, don't worry, your father will come and will take care of that way. Then the child will get a lot of protection, a lot of solace. So in that kind of approach, these ideas of soul, supreme soul, creator God, all these things have come into the existence. And of course, in so many Indian sects, and even these modern so-called gurus or enlightened people, they bring in some aspect of the mind itself as soul, that you have learned, many of you have learned the four aspects of the mind: the consciousness, the feelings, the reacting mind, or the confidence aspect of the mind, or the reasoning component of the mind. So the different sects or the different schools of thought in Indian philosophy or the Indian tradition, they consider one of these aspects, when it's purified, that itself is soul. In that way, some idea is. Many of these so-called most enlightened or very powerful spiritual leaders, for them, consciousness itself is soul. Awareness, the highly purified awareness itself is soul. In that way, they they define soul. But that is not permanent, and that is not soul. But that is not the thing that moves from one life to other life. And for some people, the compassion, the love itself is soul.
purified feelings, that itself is soul. Keep your soul pure means keep your feelings pure. In that sense, they talk. They interpret, they define soul. For some people, the confidence, the energy levels, that again there are so many schools of thought. For them, energy is soul. The cosmic energy is the God. The individual energy, the individual confidence, the individual enthusiasm, individual faith, enthusiasm, willpower, that itself they call it as, they consider it as soul. Atma Shakti, Atma Vishwas, Atma Shakti. So here for them that very Shakti is Atma, that very Vishwas, confidence is Atma. Thinking that is permanent. But that is also not permanent. That is also ephemeral. Sometimes you may find a lot of energy, sometimes the energy may not be there. It's all the game of the mind. The mind only, that component is there, and mind only. One should learn how this change in the energy levels happen. That's possible through many different meditations. That is not permanent. That's why it's not. There's nothing like soul. And then for some people, the very intelligence, the very discrete intelligence, there are a few sects consider it as soul. They think it is permanent. Even there are some Buddhist sects that consider that buddhi, that discretion, as permanent. The very buddhi as permanent, bodhi as permanent. That is also not permanent. So you can't consider that also as soul. So in that way, there is nothing permanent, which many people consider in different sects and religions, considers one of the aspects of the mind as soul, and then they try to relate it with the supreme soul, again to get some solace. But in reality, there is nothing permanent, so there is nothing soul. There is nothing like soul. It's all the game of the mind only. That's why working on the mind is the only way. That's why taking this mind-centered, this middle path approach, this mind-centered approach is the only way, only authoritative, not just authoritative way, it's the only way for that matter. So that is about the soul. Soul is an imaginary thing created by the theistic philosophies, the theistic schools of thought. Otherwise, the rest, everything that we are learning about the consciousness, about the awareness component of the mind, the feeling component of the mind, and the confidence component of the mind, and discretion or the intelligence or the analytical component, they're all about the mind. They're all the aspects of the mind. Pandami Banteji, how not to be ignorant and blind as a human? What are the measures to take to be completely absorbed in the mind? Follow the very simple thing is like we say, no. The association will make you either a fool or intelligent. If you are in the association of intelligent people, you will become intelligent. If you are in the association of foolish people, you will become a foolish person. If you want, that is the first and the foremost, and I say it's everything about spirituality. That's what Buddha says. On occasion, Ananda Bante, he says, spirituality is all about, spirituality is 50% of, it's about friendship. 50% of spirituality is friendship. Friendship determines 50% of the spirituality. That's what I understood about spirituality. That way, Ananda Bhatti says, Buddha says you are wrong. Spirituality is 100% It's about the association. Hmm? Your association is the only thing that influences your spirituality. You can say, by looking at your friendship, your association, we can say, say what kind of person you are. By analyzing or by knowing about your friend, I can say about yourself, about your future, about your progress. So association is such an impactful thing in one's life. In one of the Jataka's tales, one elephant it became mad. Then Bodhisattva, one of them, he was a minister at that place in the palace. He wanted to find out why this great elephant it became mad. Every night, some thieves they used to come and they discuss about uh, all these unwholesome things, about stealing, about torturing, about hurting other people, and about all unwholesome things. And by listening to those things, the association of those unwholesome words, unwholesome people, like those thieves, though that great elephant it became mad. And then this Bodhisattva, the minister, he caught those thieves, and instead of thieves, he started, say, some wise people, some good people who started discussing about the wholesome things, the nice things, the good things. In that way, every night they started discussing, and automatically that elephant became normal, and it became again strong and very powerful and very great. So you see the beautiful story here. In a few days, the right association, a person becomes very right, very powerful. In a few days, with the association of wrong people, that elephant become mad and lost its all its glory, all its power. So in that way, anything for that matter. If you want to be a good person, you should be in the association of good people. If you want to become wise person, you should be in the if you want to become wise person, then you should be in the association of wise people. Of course, in Buddhism, wisdom and goodness they go together. If you are good, you have to be wise. If you are wise, you have to be good. They go together. So in that way, the association has tremendous influence on one's life. Association, of course, if you don't get the people, then there are books, there are now the internet in your hand, everything is there. In your mobile, everything, all good, all bad is there. You can use it properly in the mobile. If you can look for wisdom, look for right things, look for wholesome things, you will get everything in the mobile. Then that becomes the right association. If you don't get people, the right people, the wise people, good people. Of course, being with the people, being with the minds is always beneficial. But if you don't get the minds, the mobiles are there. In place of minds, you can make use of the right mobiles, the right information from the mobiles. That also okay to some extent. You don't get the right minds or the wise minds. That is one thing. And of course, the right teachers, again, the right minds, the right teachers, the right guidance, the right then creating skillfully the place around you, the more holistic, inducing the people around you to follow the righteousness, to follow this in the family, in the house, or in the office. That's what many of our people are doing. That way, you have to use some skillful means, wise means to create that kind of right association. So, of course, where there is a will, there is a way. That's what people say. Many people they don't have the will That's why they always worry about, oh, I don't get this, I don't get that. If there is a will, everything you will get. You will create right process. Get right teachers, right guidance. When there is a will, you will get it. Okay, so with that, we conclude. Actually, I just remembered just one expression. There is some sense in it. This Osho, he says, all these theistic approaches, uh, they cater to the need of the people who are like children, 10-year-old children, people who are little bit wise, little bit mature, little bit pragmatic, little bit some sense. They they should automatically follow the path of mind-centeredness, middle paths. Those who are too say childish, as I used to say, there is the father, he will protect you. If you say like that, the small children will get a lot of solace. And that itself is good enough for them. So all in the same way, oh, the God is there, this God again, of course, they fight later. This God is there, he will protect you. Again, they form one community. No, 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 not this God, that God. That God, he will protect you, then people will form a group around that God, the proponents of that God. They talk about one God, but still the people, the proponents who discovered that God, they have different versions. Many one God, say, centered religions, they fight among themselves. They talk about only one God, but the proponents, they fight among, they have different proponents. They different say messengers or proponents, they fight among them. Because the interpretation of one God is different from one messenger to another messenger. They fight. So if we won't develop our mind, won't depend on our own mind and discover the true peace and happiness within our own mind, from our own mind, and all these theistic ideas, they are like the ideas for small children. They cater to the needs of childish people. It's very ephemeral, it's very temporary. Definitely it confuses. It will not give you either true wisdom or true freedom. Okay, that's why the final key takeaway from this talk is mind-centeredness, middle path approach, working on one's own mind. The way you are learning in these different levels of mind development, the four faculties of the mind that you're understanding, working through different meditations for each faculty of the mind. This is the mature way or the authoritative way, or the pattern only the right way to get the true happiness, the true wisdom, and the true freedom. Okay. So that is the key takeaway from this talk. The occasion of this Dhamma chapter. Of course, next week also we will continue this discussion. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa bhavatu sabba mangalang rakkantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sabba dhammanubhavena sabba sanghanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te sukhi bhaveyang nidrupo ahang nicca ahang viya idacha me sukhi hontu majjata chatavedino imam higammante dhamme satta hontu sukhi sada tato parancarajyesu chakkavale sujantano sadhu sadhu sadhu. Sadhu sukhi hontu. May all of you be happy, healthy, and peaceful. May all of you progress in this path of mind-centeredness, right view. May all beings also be happy and peaceful. Follow this path of try to find some. Sukhi Hantu, Mangalam.